about, Carlos, is how we manage the schedule when we have extended speeches. One of the issues we had this time is that we had about 45 minutes worth of speeches, and that doesn't really work within the context of our time frame. So I think going forward, we'll have to find out how to manage that in the sign-up process, so that if someone's already signed up for a 15 to 20-minute speech, that we don't have the other spot open. I had some difficulty managing that this time, but that's for the next time. For now, let us welcome Carlos Velez, who will do a facilitation session for us with the topic of what is the solution. Carlos.
Good morning, my fellow Toastmasters and distinguished guests. I am so excited to be here after driving for 45 minutes from my home here, a typical 16-minute drive. It's just exciting to have so much time to pray and meditate and think in the mother of so many people, right? Today, the objective of this presentation is to have a discussion about our resolution in my last presentation that we did about brainstorming. And I am so grateful we have the challenges we're confronting today. What are the challenges we're handling today? Well, number one, we have a Toastmasters about to have a stroke for a week in a row because we never fulfill all the roles for this meeting. We have a situation where we have a meeting today with only one speaker, and thank God Lainey is going to step up and share with us how can she earn $20,000 in 3 minutes. That's the kind of minimum wage job that I will love to find. The thing is, in spite of our brainstorming 2 weeks ago, and remember the question was, how can we make our people to sign up on time for the roles? In spite of that discussion, today we have in front of our eyes the evidence that not because we brought a problem and we talk about the problem is solved. Why this is so important for us? Well, because assumptions are powerful. It's like expectations. They are powerful. And in a family level, in a community level, even in our country, in the midst of deciding who will command this country for the next 4 years, we have a lot of assumptions and expectations, and most of them will never result in anything because it's not enough to think about problems, and it's not enough to talk about problems. We need to actually solve the problem. And this session, it's exactly about that. This is what I'm going to do first. I'm going to tell you a very interesting quote that I found from Gandhi. Gandhi said these words probably 50 or 60 years ago. He said, India may be a land of over 100 problems, but it is also a place for 1 billion solutions. And it's just that the reality of this challenge is that the solution for our problems are not on Google or an encyclopedia for those of you who are 30 years old or older, right? The solutions are not in the talk, not even in the thinking, but in the action. And that's what we want to do today. Obviously, you know at this point that your participation in this process will be crucial. Because, as I said the last time, we are better than me. And I think it is our duty, not only our desire, but our duty to solve this problem. You see, when I was not a believer in Christ, I always have the same dilemma, choosing between good and bad. But now that I'm a believer, I don't need to choose between good and bad. I need to choose between good and better. Because bad has no room for me anymore. I don't have room for bad anymore. Christ paid for my sins. I'm a new creation in His name. Bad has no room in my life. But now I need to choose between good and better. And let me tell you something. We can go to the pity road of this line of thinking. Well, you know what, Carlos? We are doing way better than most Toastmasters clubs. And that's true. But do you want to compare yourself to the average? Or do you want to create a new level of excellence? I think that if the way we sign up for the roles was equal to the way we perform our jobs, we will be all unemployed. I believe that. For that reason, I think it's time to shake the bag. I think it's time to not only think and rethink the way we as a club address this issue, but to find a real solution for this. Because I know how pleasant it is. Right, Toastmasters? How pleasant it is to for 7 days in a row watching that agenda being empty. It's so pleasant, right? We feel so secure about the quality of this meeting, right? Let me recap what we decided to do in our last session, the brainstorming session. Number one, we basically created in our answers, in our ideas, two basic categories. Is this problem a problem of the club? Is the leaders of the club responsible for this? Or this is a personal responsibility of the members of the club? You see? This big difference. Who's in charge of this? Who can solve this? And then we came with probably 12 ideas, and we narrowed them to three ideas that it was ideas/commitments. Number one, that the word commitment in relationship to the roles will mean, or is defined this way. Number one, once I take a role, number one, if I can make it at the end, I will find a replacement. I will email the Toastmasters, and I'm basically responsible to fulfill that duty if I sign up and then at the end I cannot be there. Today, this morning, we have two great examples of phone calls of people who are sick or were not able to come. And then we saw a great Toastmasters, looking for volunteers last minute. This is a great example. And I want to stop here because I don't want you to feel that I'm over-criticizing this. This is my point here. Sometimes in the name of political correctness, we don't solve the problems because we are even afraid to name them. And if we cannot define the problem, we will not be able to solve it. I have the blessing to be close to Lainey. She's dealing with a huge problem. Let me rephrase that. A huge silent problem in our society. And sometimes she speaks about human trafficking and people blush because they think it's not real. And we need to call it by name in order to be able to solve it. Are you getting this? Well, the second idea that came, number one, was how we were going to define commitment. The second was we're going to establish a due date, right? D-Day. Every week, it was Friday at 5 p.m. All the roles should be what? Filled, right? We're going to commit after the meeting on Wednesday morning. I remember, for example, Missy saying, we know our schedules already, right? And somebody like me who have already scheduled even what I eat in order to lose all this baggage, I know exactly how my life is going to run, okay? And I think 48 hours after a meeting is more than enough time to deal with that. And then the third idea that we brought up is a better usage of the box at the bottom of our signing up webpage. We have a box down there, and we encourage for 2 behaviors. Number 1, to let people know when you are not going to be part of the meeting. But number 2, to let everybody knows if you are coming. Because let's say all the roles are taken, but we know you are coming. If something happened last minute, we know who's coming and who can probably take over that. And they are areas as simple as recording that the speeches or taking the time that it doesn't require any kind of preparation. There are other areas that require, because how do you find that word? I just want to know. How do you find that word? That took you probably months to find that word. It requires, it requires a lot of preparation. But the point is, we are better together. And I think if we put the quality that will affect the whole group over personal satisfaction, we can start going in a different route. Now, as I was analyzing this solutions that came out of the brainstorming session, I find out something. Let me give you an example. Solution number 1, commitment. If you sign up for a role, you are responsible for that role, and you need to find a replacement and email the Toastmaster. That's a great idea. But that is not a solution for our problem. And you say, what? I say, yeah, it's not. Because the problem is not only that people who sign up walk away. The problem is that we have people not signing up for roles. And you cannot be responsible for something you haven't signed up for. You see, that's like a second step solution. But what is the first step solution? Do you understand what I'm trying? This is so important. And then, for example, number 2, due date. Due date. And you probably think, well, that's a great idea. If the Toastmasters by Friday afternoon knows who's going to do what. But are we going to all wait until Friday at 5 to see who signed up first?
Yes.
And then number 3, we use that box. And do you understand the principle behind that? For that reason, before we move forward to try to find a solution, I want to ask, what do you think is the real problem? Go ahead.
Communication.
Can you define that a little bit more for me?
Communicating your own desires in the club, or the reason that you're here. Communication, letting people know that you're available or if you're not available. And not just because, you don't feel like coming. Communicating your desire so that we know Eric's going to be here, and we know that he leaves just a little bit early because of his obligations. He's communicated that to us.
I agree with you. Let me tell you, I will be with you in a second. Let me tell you the good thing about this club. We all have a great desire to grow. We have break that barrier of, should I move forward in life or not? No, we're here because we want to move forward. And that's a great attitude. But can we supplement that attitude with something else? You want to say something, Lisa?
I was going to say, in addition to what Lisa mentioned, maybe it's a commitment to be actively and consistently engaged in the club. Like, do we have the posture that, what am I going to do this week? What am I going to do next week? Or do we kind of expect that there will be weeks on end that we will just come and observe? So, and speaking of my own intention, I don't necessarily look that every week I'm going to have a role, but maybe that's where we need to be. Particularly since you mentioned several weeks ago that in terms of roles and members, there's almost a one-to-one. So.
Yeah, I was about to say that. One thing that will demystify that issue is touching reality. We need like 15 to 17 people every week to fulfill the roles. And we have how many members?
22.
Yeah, 22 members sign up, and I know at least of one person who pay their dues, but she not even live around here. She just do it to help the club. For that reason, we can summarize that like in 20, 21 people, right? And 17 to, sometimes even more. 17 roles. That means you don't have a lot of room to be a tourist here. And I think that's a great observation. Communication, engagement. What do you think is the real problem? Go ahead.
I think I've come and then I've left, and it was I had to evaluate what was on my schedule and what I was going to give the most importance to. And it came back that I needed to remove something from my schedule because this was important enough. But it was important enough that by my actions, it shows that it's important. It's not just I come and get a drink at the bar and, I don't do that. But it's not a half-hearted effort that if I'm going to take an hour, for me it's a 2-hour commitment, driving and coming
Sure.
back, then it's, number one, it's got to have value in my life, and therefore I must give it value.
That means your words and your actions should be aligned, right? We have communication, we have engagement, we have words and actions aligned. What do you think is the problem?
Integrity.
Oh, don't go that far. Nobody's stealing here yet. No, go ahead. I know. I'm trying to make this more digestible.
Well, what I've learned is being in integrity is doing what you say you want to have, making everything line up with what you say you want to have.
Well, I think we have integrity. I think I think the people who say they're going to do something, most of them do it. The problem is how to make everybody to do the same thing. I noticed that once we commit, most of us fulfill that duty. The challenge is we for some reason, we don't connect in the right time to be able to plan accordingly to the expectations of an excellent performance in our meetings. Because it's not the same to have everybody align a week before and you can, supervise that and prepare a great meeting, that running the same morning, can you do this? Can you do the other thing? Oh, please, I know you are speaking. Can you evaluate yourself? Please, it's kind of, I'm sorry, Andrew. He's so, formal, and I just